Welcome back to the kitchen, guys. This episode is going out to my dad. We're making his favorite donut today, the Boston cream. I think it's a lot of people's favorite. It's got to be one of the most popular donuts out there. It's got that light, soft, deep fried donut body filled with that luscious vanilla custard and of course the decadent chocolate glaze. You can't beat it. It hits on all three levels. It's got so much going on. A lot of people think you could never make it at home. We're gonna do it all by hand, no special equipment. See exactly how it's done. Let's get to it. We're gonna get started with the vanilla custard today because that takes a little while to cool down, so we wanna get it cooked off and in the fridge so we have a nice thick custard when we're ready to fill. Very simple custard. It's an egg custard. If you haven't made one before, there's nothing to be afraid of. I'm gonna walk you through step by step. It's very easy. We're starting with our cornstarch and we're gonna mix in a little bit of milk. You always wanna make a slurry with your starch before you cook it. Otherwise you can get lumps if you put starch directly into hot water. It'll clump up. If you make a slurry first, you'll be safe from that. Make sure you give it a good stir, get all those lumps out, and then we're gonna go directly into our pan. I'm gonna go in with all our remaining ingredients now except for our vanilla. Vanilla goes in off the heat so we don't lose that flavor. Got some white sugar, a couple tablespoons of butter. It's all gonna melt in the pan. Now we have 2 whole eggs and 2 egg yolks. That's gonna give us the perfect balance of creaminess, silkiness, and richness. You can save your whites for omelets. You can make meringues with them. They freeze. Actually, egg whites freeze really well, so you can unfreeze them and use them whenever you need. I'm gonna set those aside for now. We have a little bit of cream of tartar. It's not here for any of its usual chemical properties. It's actually here for its acid. We're gonna bring some tartness to this cream without watering down our pudding. Pudding, custard, whatever you wanna call it. A little bit of salt and the rest of our milk. Give it a good whisk. Should have beaten my eggs first. See that butter dancing around? Might as well add it after the whisk. I don't always think ahead, guys. It's not a big deal though. We're gonna get this on the heat and we'll see how it comes together. Some things to have on hand before we get the heat on this. Of course, you want your whisk. You want a spatula to get this out of the pan once it's done. And some sort of heat-proof bowl that you can transfer it to. As soon as our custard thickens, we want to get it out of the hot pan just so that it doesn't lump up and overcook. It's not that hard to do. A lot of people are afraid of egg custards. We're going to walk you through step by step. It's really no problem. I recommend, if you have one, using a pan like this that has rounded sides. This is called a saucier. It just allows you to get into all the corners with your whisk so nothing gets stuck in a little edge and clumps up on you. Medium heat. As we get started, we're just gonna stir every once in a while to keep things even. And then as we start to come up to temperature and we get some steam, we'll start to stir continuously to make sure we get a smooth custard. I've got this little laser thermometer here. You guys don't need a thermometer, but I'm gonna use it to walk you through what you're gonna see as we come up to temperature. This will thicken at about 160 degrees. So right now we are at a lowly 72. We're gonna let it come up to temperature and we'll see the kind of stages of development. Now we're just getting up over 100 degrees. It means you'll start to see your butter melting. And we'll just whisk that in as we go. One important thing, if you're using gas like I am, this is one of the few times I would actually prefer electric, but this is what we got. If you're using gas, make sure your flame isn't so high that it's licking up the sides of your pan, because the sides of your pan will get hotter than the bottom, and then your custard can curdle on the sides. One thing I like to do is actually pick my pan up and give it a little tip, just to use the liquid to cool the sides down. Again, avoid those hot sides because you don't want your eggs to curdle against them. Looks like we're about 140 now. You're gonna start to see some steam at 140. That's how you'll know you're starting to get close. So like I said, 160 is the moment where the magic really happens and everything will thicken up. So as you start to approach that, you wanna be stirring more often. Now we're at 150. We're getting very close. We will keep it in motion. Very soon we're going to start to feel some thickening. Got a good amount of steam now. I can smell that hot milk. And I'm just starting to feel some body. Let's see where we're at. 155, starting to feel some thickness. You may be able to see it on the camera that we are starting to hit the thickening point. I'm even gonna turn my heat down just a touch. Let this happen slowly at the end. Don't get scared at this point. You don't wanna pull it early. You want it to fully thicken. I'm gonna go ahead and kill my heat. Keep stirring after you kill the heat. You don't want any hot spots. And that's when you're gonna bring in your heat-proof bowl. You should be able to see, I hope, a good custardy consistency. That is beautiful. Transfer to our heat-proof bowl. And we can see a beautiful, smooth, lump-free custard. Beautiful thickness. It's going to get even thicker once we refrigerate it. If you happen to get any lumps while you were making it, as long as you still have a decent custard, you can just pass it through a fine mesh sieve and that'll take the lumps right out. It's not a problem, but ours is looking great. You may have seen, take these glasses off. I got to use these to see things up close sometimes. I'm using a metal bowl here. That's because it conducts heat and we want this to chill down quickly. Now that we've gotten some of the heat out of it, don't forget your vanilla. We just don't want to cook off all those subtle vanilla notes. That is smelling great, guys. A little bit of that richness from the egg. I smell all that vanilla. It's a simple custard, but it's perfectly balanced. It's got that tartness from the cream of tartar. Everything you want. It's going to match beautifully with our chocolate. I love that vanilla and chocolate match. That's why this donut is so good. Now, if you've made custard before, you'll know that if you leave it exposed to the air, it can form a skin. So I'm gonna cover this with plastic wrap and I'm gonna push down the plastic wrap so it's touching the custard. And then I'm gonna pop it in the fridge while we make our donuts. Moving on to our dough, we've got a very simple enriched yeasted dough today. It's enriched with eggs and butter, and we're using whole milk as our liquid to make a nice, rich, fluffy donut. If you have a stand mixer, I'll include directions below for how to do that, but I said we were gonna go with no special equipment today, so I'm gonna show you the hand mix method. We're gonna start, we have some tepid milk. I just warmed it up in the microwave until, I always like to say, about the temperature you would give a baby a bath in. That way it won't kill your yeast. And I've got some melted butter. Get our eggs in. We're gonna give that a good whisk. Now that we've got that whisked, we'll add in our yeast. Let that get hydrated while we bring together our dry ingredients next. I always pick the smallest container.
This is who you are.
All right, let's grab our dry stuff. We've got some simple all-purpose flour, sugar, and salt. Those are all getting mixed together. I always like to get my salt mixed with my flour before it touches my yeast. Salt can kill yeast if there's direct contact. It's not a huge deal, but it's just a little safety feature. I always like to do my doughs directly on my countertop and not in a bowl. It just lets me handle how the liquid is combining with the flour more accurately. You can do this in a bowl if you want, but make sure you use a larger bowl than this if that's what you're gonna do. But I'm gonna go directly onto my counter. Use the bottom of my bowl to make a little well. Expand that well with my fingers a bit. I like to keep a little extra flour on this top side because that's where I'm going to be bringing it in mostly from. We gave our yeast just a few minutes to hydrate. It's looking good right now. Make sure you give it a good stir so there's nothing sitting on the bottom or stuck to the sides. We want that yeast in there so our dough rises. And we're just going to add that to the center of our well. Now, nothing to be afraid of here. I'm just going to take a fork and I'm going to start to draw some flour into the liquid mixture. Now the reason this works is because as we bring this flour in, we're slowly going to form a batter. And as that batter thickens, it won't run all over our counter once we break our walls down. I like to use this method because it allows me to control how quickly I'm adding flour to the liquid. And a nice, slow, steady addition will allow that flour to hydrate. And it just gives you a better overall dough, in my opinion. But it's a small thing. If you want to use a bowl for this, feel free. The only time I would really recommend using this method for sure and not using a bowl is when you're doing pasta dough, because you have to keep that dough super dry. See, our batter is getting really thick now, exactly what we want. And we are at a thickness where it's really not going to run, so we can start to break down our walls, get all that flour in there. This is the point where I clean my fork off, get some flour on there, just makes it a little neater. Make sure you get everything off the fork because that's part of your recipe. And we will switch over to a bench scraper now. We're going to start to add all of our flour in, and we're just going to cut it using the bench scraper to make kind of a crosshatch pattern, which creates a lot of surface area so that all that flour can be absorbed into the liquid. Once it starts to form a dough, I like to use my bench scraper as long as I can to keep my hands clean. So just kind of press down with it, folding the dough over on itself. Scrape up any bits that are stuck to the counter. Clean this bench scraper off as best we can. This is the part where we're going to get our hands dirty a little bit. Make sure they're clean before you start. I like to start with just my fingertips. The less of your hand that touches the sticky dough, the better. And we're just going to roll and press down. Flip it back, press down. It's going to be sticky at first. Don't be afraid of it. Sticky doughs make the best breads. Fingertips, so we're not getting our whole hands sticky and dirty. And we're just going to press and knead. Sometimes you can slap it down on the board. Now this is going to seem like it's never going to come together at first because it's so sticky. But as we knead, the proteins develop, and this dough will tighten up. It'll start to want to stick to itself more than it wants to stick to me or the board. And that only takes about 5 minutes. You can see with sticky doughs, I'm using this slap and fold method. Slap it so it sticks to the board, fold it over on itself. It's a really good way to keep it from crawling up your hands, and you get a good stretch still. Now we are only about 1.5 minutes into this, and you can already see that that stickiness is starting to go away. The dough is starting to smooth out, and it's pulling away from my hands. A lot easier to deal with. And I'm at the point now where I don't even need to slap and fold anymore. I can just roll this dough back and forth with my fingertips, fold it over on itself, roll it some more. Now we are just about at 5 minutes. This dough is getting very smooth and elastic. That's perfect. It's actually less time than it takes even when you're using a stand mixer, because we are going to use a rest technique that allows our proteins to develop on their own without too much elbow grease. So we're looking good. Get it off my fingers. You can see this dough has formed a nice smooth ball now. It's not completely smooth yet because we haven't rested it, but our counter is clean. Our dough is sticking to itself and not our hands. I'm going to rest it for 15 minutes covered. We'll come back and give it 1 more minute of kneading, and we'll have perfect dough. "15 minutes is up. Let's see what we got. Like I said, that 15 minutes is just to give the proteins a chance to link up, which they will naturally do on their own, and then we're going to give it an extra 1 minute knead to bring everything together and make it tight and smooth. So this is feeling good. We're going to give it a quick knead, kind of back and forth. And that is looking beautiful. Hope you guys can see we have a really smooth surface. It's bouncy, it's springy, it's everything we want a donut dough to be. I'm gonna put it onto a cutting board just so I can move it around as needed. Cover it up. About 1.5 hours to 2 hours until it has doubled in size. That depends on the warmth of your kitchen. You'll see it double in size, and I'll show you once we get there what it looks like when we're ready to go. 2 hours is up, guys. Let's see what we got. Take our cover off here. Now that is looking beautiful. Smells good. It's smelling like enriched dough. It looks like we're about doubled in size. One thing you can do is give your dough a little poke test. If you give it a poke and the indentation stays like that, hope you can see that. Yeah, you guys can see that. The indentation stays, you know you're pretty good. So let's get this out on a board. We're gonna flour it a little bit of flour on our board, a little bit of flour on the dough. We're gonna roll it out with our rolling pin, and then we are gonna cut it. Now we're going to take this down to about a 1/2 inch thick. Being gentle, we're not trying to squeeze all the air out. We want to keep it fluffy. That is looking pretty good to me. That's about a 1/2 inch. Now I find a cookie cutter, round cookie cutter, about 3.5 inches is a good size for this. You can make them whatever size you want, but I find this a good donut size. It should give us about 7 donuts. I'll call that a baker's half dozen. Let's see what we get. Well, I'm lucky enough to get 8 this time. It's really going to depend on how thick you roll your dough out. We cannot re-roll this. When I pull this off, we can't re-roll this dough, but what we can do is cut it up into little bite-sized pieces and fry it off and roll it in sugar and make little donut bites, which is a great way to not waste dough. But for these guys, we need to let them have a second rise for about 45 minutes until they puff up really nice. You want to cover them for that. You can cover them with plastic wrap and a towel over it. Because I bake a lot, happen to have a proofing box, so I'm just going to use that. It's easier. Get the lid on. Like I said, about 45 on that. I'm going to cut this dough up and fry it off as snacks. Then we're going to get our custard into a piping bag. We're going to make our chocolate frosting, and we will be ready to go. All right, guys, it's been about 45. Let's take a look at our donuts. As you can see, hopefully you can see, they're looking nice and puffed up. They are definitely gonna puff up a lot more as we fry them. You don't have to have a very deep pan for this because they float. So just get your widest pan. It doesn't matter if it's a little shallow, just enough oil for these guys to float in. For this pan, I could probably fit 5 in here at a time, but I won't do that because I just want them to cook evenly and I wanna have room to work. So, you know, maybe I'll only do like 4. Let's see what happens. Pop them right in. I think 4 is good. We'll leave room for them to float around. It's about 2 minutes per side. Our oil is at 285. That's a pretty low temperature. I've seen a lot of people online, when I looked at their donut recipes, talking about frying at 350 and stuff like that, 325. It's too hot. You want your donuts to be a nice golden brown. You don't want them to be dark. This isn't fried chicken. These are donuts. So checking our temperature, it was up to 290. That's a little high. Turn it down. 285 is your target temperature. These are going to fry up beautifully golden. We'll flip them after 2 minutes. That's about 2. Let's give them a flip. Nice color. If you get a little extra bubble poking out, you can just pop it with a fork, no problem. 2 minutes on this side. They puff up really beautifully in the oil. We're gonna set them aside, finish off the rest. Next 2 minutes is up. We're gonna transfer them to a cooling rack. And that little light line around the center means you know you have a good fluffy donut. That's not a problem at all. Let's get our next 4 in. Look at that beauty. That, my friends, is a good looking donut. There's like a presentation side with these. There's a side that kind of puffs up more round. It's the side that wasn't flat down when we picked it up. You want that side to be your upside. That's the side you're gonna dip in chocolate. We'll see as we go. Round on top, a little bit more flat. And that non-presentation side oftentimes will have a little white spot because there's an air pocket in it, and that's fine because that's the bottom of our donut. No big deal. And they're coming out presentation side down. So I like to flip them so that that side doesn't get marks as they cool. You might want to let them cool a little bit. Chef's hands here. These are looking beautiful. We got 8 beautiful donuts. We're gonna let them cool before we put the custard in the center because we don't want to melt our custard. But I'm gonna get that custard into our piping bag and get set up and we'll be ready to go. Got our custard, get it uncovered here. Looking good, let's give it a taste. Thickness seems perfect. Very thick, let's see. Perfect, guys. That is fantastic vanilla custard. Not only is it just like silky and smooth and the vanilla really pops, but that addition of cream of tartar is so the right thing for this because it brings an acid note, it brings a tang to it, and acids make all the other flavors in a dish bloom. And it does it without bringing something like a lemon or another kind of flavored acid into it. We're keeping it a vanilla custard. We're just making that vanilla and the sugar and all the other flavors, the richness from the eggs, pop with that little bit of cream of tartar. You're not gonna see that in anyone else's recipe. No one else is doing it. That's why we've got the best custard. It's gonna be so good on our donuts. I mean, look at that. Beautiful, thick, rich. Let's get it into our piping bag. I'm using a small bag today, so we're not gonna fit it all at once. I'll have to reload this once halfway through, but that's okay. That'll do. Like I said, we'll reload it halfway through. We'll get some donuts filled. They should be cool in a few minutes and we'll get going. So the first step of filling our donuts is we have to make the pocket for the filling. My wife was very surprised by this. She didn't believe I could make Boston cream donuts at home. She thought there was some kind of weird machine that did it, that it was a factory thing. No, it's actually pretty simple. You just need some sort of stick, like a chopstick like this. You want to find the side of the donut, poke into it, and then you're just going to poke around, move that chopstick around, just making a pocket in the middle of the donut. That's going to fill up with cream. And that's all you got to do. Our holes are formed. Let's fill them with cream. So I've got a 1/4 inch round piping tip. You just want to get the tip into the hole you made. Give it a good squeeze. You're going to feel that donut getting heavier and filling with cream. Go slowly so it doesn't burst on you. And you just want to feel the inside. I can feel it with my thumb and my forefinger underneath getting heavier and starting to puff up. And you're just gonna make sure that you get cream throughout the whole donut. And at the end, a little bit will start, there should be some pressure in there, so a little bit starts to poke out, and that's fine. These are stuffed about ready to burst. That's how I love my Boston cream donuts. They are looking great. They're gonna be so perfect once we get that chocolate frosting on. Let's get that frosting made up and we're gonna give them a dip. Very simple to make this frosting, guys. We're gonna add a little bit of milk to our saucepan along with some unsalted butter and a little bit of salt. Salt always brings out the flavors of something sweet. You're not adding enough to make it salty. It just helps you taste it more. Medium heat, we're gonna melt this butter and bring this up to just a bare simmer before we add our chocolate. Butter is melted. We are at a light simmer. Kill the heat. Add in our chocolate. And we're just gonna let the residual heat, make sure that chocolate's kind of covered by the milk. We're gonna set this aside for like 5 minutes, let the residual heat melt the chocolate. That's the easiest, lightest way to do it without burning everything. Then we'll add our vanilla and powdered sugar. I'd say it's been about 5 minutes. I don't know, I didn't have a timer going. Let's check this chocolate. Give it a little stir. That's looking melty. I like this method because you don't have to set up a double boiler. You can if you want to, but Just using the residual heat of the milk should be enough to get your chocolate melted. And if it's not 100% melted, then you can just crack that low heat on, very low, so you don't burn anything, and just take it the rest of the way. This is looking about perfect to me. Let's get our vanilla in. Add that off the heat so we don't cook off the vanilla flavor. And then we are gonna whisk in our powdered sugar. Now it looks like there's not gonna be enough chocolate for all that powdered sugar, but powdered sugar, it's a lot of fluff and not a lot of substance. So it'll melt down and you'll see. We will have a beautiful chocolate glaze. Just whisk out any lumps from the powdered sugar. They won't stay. That is looking great. Just what we want to see, nice and thick, rich. It's gonna make a beautiful glaze for these donuts. Time has arrived, guys. We're gonna finish it off. We got our glaze, we got our donuts. Let's start giving them a dip. Presentation side was up, so we're going down. Just set it in there. Give them a little rock to get it all around there. There's gonna be some suction. That is a thick glaze. Let it drip off. Let the excess go. Then flip it. And you can see beautiful chocolate glazed donut. I wonder how sensitive my microphone is. If you can hear my fat orange cat loudly snoring behind me. Let me know in the comments if you can hear it. Bring him in, take a look. Now those are some gorgeous donuts. Handmade at home. No special equipment, guys. Just all natural, beautiful dessert. I'm gonna let this chocolate set for a few minutes. It'll set up pretty quick, and then we're gonna give it a taste. Is the chocolate set? Probably not completely, but we're gonna give this a go. It's been about 5 minutes. That's long enough for me. I'm gonna get one of these donuts on a plate. Wow, that is heavy. There's a lot of cream in that guy. I love it. I mean, look at this donut, guys. Come on, let's take a look up close, huh? Boston cream, look at that silky chocolate top. You can see beautifully cooked, really stuffed full of cream. I mean, you would think this came from your local donut shop. No extra equipment, everything done by hand. It wasn't that hard. We saw how to make it. My wife didn't believe it could happen. Let's give it a taste. Look at that. That is a stuffed donut. That is full of cream. I'm sure my mouth is full of chocolate. So delicious, guys. Oh my gosh. I mean, the donut is so light, fluffy, airy, everything you want, perfectly made, hand-mixed dough. That cream is just bursting out of the donut, but not breaking the donut. It's the perfect consistency. It's silky, it's smooth, it's rich, it's vanilla-y. It's got a little bit of pop of acid just to bring out the flavors, and that chocolate, perfectly sweet, not overly sweet. I mean, it's just a perfect donut, guys. My dad is gonna go crazy for this, his favorite donut. Honestly, when I took this challenge on, I had never made a Boston cream, and I thought it was gonna be harder than this to make it at home without any special equipment. But I mean, that is a absolutely perfect Boston cream donut, just made by hand. You don't have to be some kind of crazy pastry chef to be able to do it. This little beauty, I mean, this little beauty will impress anyone in your family, your friends. You're eating donuts homemade, baby. There's nothing better, there's nothing cooler. You're really gonna impress people. They are light and fluffy, perfectly sweet, silky, creamy, chocolatey. Everything you want in a dessert. Everything you want in a dessert happens in this donut, and you will impress the hell out of everyone. It's not that hard, guys. You saw the steps. Take a little bit of time. You got a lazy Sunday, take a little bit of time, make these donuts, put them in a little pastry box, bring them into work on Monday, and everybody is gonna think you're the coolest person. I'm about to have a good Saturday night eating these donuts. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Boston cream, baby.